What's happening? How y'all doing? Welcome back to another episode of Trick 10s. Today we are working on the Tinny, the 1032 tracker topper, tiniest little Jonboat that I've ever seen, let alone worked on, and this thing is pimping. I painted this like a week ago. I put a cover over it because I had a couple other jobs I had to do. I didn't want to get any metal dust and grinding shavings all over it, so I covered it up. And when I took it off, I was impressed. The paint on it, it looks sick. I mean, this thing is heavy duty. It's durable. I actually tried to scratch some of this paint off with my fingernail up in the back and up in the corner, and it didn't come off. So I was like, wow, that's some good paint. I mean, especially if we're just doing 2 coats, 0 runs, and it went on thick, like real thick. I painted this with those cans in like freaking half the time I would normally paint a boat. So definitely going to be using those cans. And if you guys are interested in using some paint like I did, I will leave a link in the description of this video. It's just from Lowe's, man. It's cheap and it works. What else can you ask for? Anyways, now that we've gotten the boat to this point, I got to finish this thing up. There's no other boats in the shop. The shop is empty, and this boat, it needs to go. It's got to be finished up. There's not that much more to do, but it's all the intricate stuff, all the wiring. And this is a tiny boat. Does it really need to have all the lighting we're going to put into it? Probably not, but is it going to look cool? Of course it is. That's why we're going to do it. Duh. Now I'm going to turn this camera around. I'm going to show you guys what I got, what I'm going to do. You know how this works. Let's get right into it. All right, guys. So check this thing out, man. I mean, that paint job is stellar. Well, I looked at it the first time. I was like, dang, is that the paint job I did? It is, and it looks good. I'm impressed. Now that I got the boat to this stage of the game, we got these compartments in here. They still are wide open, raw aluminum. So I want to paint inside of these, but I also want to put some type of a false floor in here. I'm definitely going to put one in here. I might leave that one open because that's where his bilge pump's going to be. And if he gets any water or anything in the boat, he wants to be able to see it. So he can open that hatch and see the bottom of the boat. The rest of these compartments, though, I'm going to put some type of a floor in here. And this one's going to have a battery tray. It's going to house his MillerTech battery and battery tender. And then this one, the same type of deal. I want to put a false floor in here. It should be for tackle. And the same thing with this one. Now, I want to put something in here so this stuff doesn't just run up in this crease and get stuck in there. And not only that, but this thing slopes back a lot. And I don't really want him to have like all this stuff sliding back. So I might put like a flat floor in here. I'm not sure. This is kind of the way I set up the original Yin 10. So I just put a big floor inside of here and it was on a slight angle. But he needs something to keep his stuff from falling down into those crevices. Plus, it will also keep the boat a lot quieter if I put a piece of foam in there and then the floor on top of that. That's what I'm thinking I'm going to do, though. And then I have all of the electrical to do. Now, we did make the switch panel right here. That's where his 6-gang switch panel is going to go. And over here, I've got a fuse block. Now, this switch panel is nothing huge, but it was sponsored. And it was sponsored by Nightlight. And I'm going to leave a link in the description of this video for this switch panel. Now, there's a lot of different ones. They have all types of them up there on the internet, and this one is the one I like to use. It's pretty cool. It's a 6-gang switch panel. Look, let's open this thing up so you can see it good. But I like using this one because the housing on it is like a brushed aluminum finish. You see Nightlight, but so are the switches. And they have little lights in them that will light up when the power's run to the boat, just to show you where the switches are so you can see them at night. And I think it's pretty dope. But the cool thing about this is that it comes pre-wired. A lot of these wires we can leave. All the black ones are good. And we will have to remove these red ones to be able to hook them up to a fuse, because the way it's set up right now, all of them are in line. You could just hook a fuse onto that, but I like to separate these, which it's not that hard to do. But this panel is pretty nice for less than 30 bucks. I mean, you're not going to find anything better than this for less than 30 bucks. This is my favorite one. They have them in blue and green, and I think they have them in red too. But this is the blue one. Obviously, the boat's blue, so blue matches. But yeah, they sponsored this. They offered to sponsor a whole bunch of other products, but the issue is I don't have time to do a bunch of videos for sponsors. Now, you want to give me free products, that's cool. I'll mention it in the video, but I can't do a ton of sponsorship videos because I can't even keep up with the videos that I got to do. But if you guys are interested in that, go check it out. And this is the switch panel that I use in majority of my boat builds, and I like it. I use it because I like it. I was going to buy it regardless, and then they reached out to me and asked me if they could sponsor something. They would have sponsored the strip lights in here, but they didn't have the ones I needed. I did get the strip lights though, so I'm getting ready to hook those up too. I got 4 runs of them that are actually 16 feet, so they're not going to run the whole length. We're going to cut them off. We're going to have like a 6-foot drop. This is only a 10-foot boat. I'm going to put interior strip rail lights and exterior lights, and they're going to run the full length of the boat. They're going to look cool. It's not really a necessity, but kind of my trademark. So we're going to install those. I did get some blue ones and some white ones. Now, these are not momentary ones. You can't change these. These are not the ones I normally use. There's some cheaper ones, but this is kind of a budget build, and I'm trying to save some dollars where I can. So I'm trying to decide on whether I want to put the white ones on the outside and the blue ones on the inside, or vice versa. I don't know. But I got a lot to do, and this boat's not going to build itself. So I'm going to put you guys back on the hyperlapse. I'm going to try to figure out some of these floors in here, and then we'll circle back. Well, let's get back to work. All right, guys, so I got the floor into this middle bench, and I started thinking about the back bench, and that's probably where I want to put his battery. Now, he did have a sponsorship from Miller Tech Batteries, and this bench is shallow. This is only like 11 inches in here, 10 and some change. So I went ahead and opened up these 2 boxes. I've had these boxes for a minute now, but this one has the battery in it. I'm gonna pull this thing out in just a second and see exactly how deep it is, because I might not be able to put a floor in there if this thing is too deep, but this is a cool looking battery. We're gonna pull this out in just a second. But this box right here I thought was pretty neat. Look at this. They sent me a hat, and they got me a shirt inside of here. That is dope. I appreciate that, guys. I'm a big hat guy. I'm gonna check this shirt out too though, because it might be right up my alley. Extra large. This is like a fishing shirt. Okay, UPF 50. That's pretty dope. I'm gonna get this thing out. I'll show you guys that in a second. But inside of here, we've got our battery tender, and we need to have that charger in there. So I'm gonna take this piece out right now. We'll figure out how tall this thing is. Battery is pretty lightweight. It is kind of tall though. All right, battery comes in at 8.5, and then we have to mount these top pieces in here, the studs, to hold the stuff down. So we're looking at a good 9.5 probably, and we have 10.5 of space inside of that bench, and the hatch that drops in is 1 inch, so that gives us 9.5 inches of space. This is definitely going to have to go in a battery pan that's attached to the floor. So I'm going to go build a battery pan that's going to fit this, and I'm going to weld this to the bottom of the floor. We're not going to be able to put a false floor into that back bench compartment, but this is a pretty sweet battery. 100 amp, 12 volt, and this thing is pretty lightweight. I mean, it's probably like 20 and some change maybe, but it's a good size. I mean, this is a pretty small battery considering that it's 100 amp hour, so it's nice of them to supply this for us, but now we got to build a pan for it, get this thing installed in the boat. Let's get back to work. right, so we got our battery tray made and welded into the floor, and we painted inside of these compartments. I did do some of the trim around these corners because we're gonna have turf in here, and if any of the turf has an exposed seam in it somewhere, I'd rather it be blue than the shiny aluminum. Painted inside of here too. Now originally I was gonna put a floor inside of here. I just don't think we need it. The boat's so small and it's just extra weight. And if anything, I'll just turf right over top of the floor that's there, and maybe put some tape over top of these gunnel, water troughs in the floor. I don't know, we'll see, but I just don't think we need to put any more metal in there. And obviously we couldn't put any inside of here. I'm gonna try to turf all of the vertical walls in here. I might even throw some turf in here, I don't know, but I needed to leave this open because I got a bilge pump I'm gonna put in here. But making some progress. Now I'm getting ready to install some of the electronics because I'm picking up all the hatches tomorrow, and I want to get some of these wires pulled so I can go ahead and put these hatches in here and turf the thing. But I need to put his battery in and run his wires up into the switch panel. Now the switch panel is going to be there, and then the fuse panel is going to be here. We made this to receive a pan, but we didn't actually make that panel yet. And I need that panel, and in order to install that panel, I got to hook up all the wires into it. But before I can do that, I got to make it and I got to paint it, because I'm going to mount the fuse block to it permanently and then run wires. And if I do all that and then don't have it painted, it just doesn't work that way. So that's the steps I got to do. I got to make that pan, and then I'm going to, make sure everything fits right. And then I'm going to paint it. And then I'm going to start putting these batteries in here and start pulling wires. I am going to run a cable for his trolling motor up here. I'm probably going to put a plug into the recessed foot pedal tray. That way he can remove the whole trolling motor. Obviously, it's made to be removable. And I did hear from John Tiger today. He said that the outboard motor is in good shape and it doesn't need a lot of work. So hopefully we'll have that back here shortly too. I'm going to put you guys back on the time lapse, and I'm going to try to make this piece over here that's going to house the fuse block. Let's get right into it. right, guys, so we're making a ton of progress on this build. Finally, this thing is almost at the light at the end of the tunnel. Check it out. We got the bilge pump installed, made this little bracket out of 1/8 inch, painted it, riveted it into the transom. It's just free flow down there, but the thing's sturdy. Got it hooked up. The hose runs up there, up to the side, and out through the hole. That's perfect. This is a battery tender that came with this MillerTech battery. Got that thing mounted right behind it. And I got the cable for the trolling motor ran up here to where the recessed foot pedal tray is going to be. All the paint's pretty much done in here. Fuse block panel is already finished up, and I'm ready to start hooking up wires to this. Well, before I can hook up the wires to these switches, I'd like to turf this, because if not, then I'm gonna have to take the damn wires back off, turf this, and then put the switch panel in. The switch panel is something that you just need to hook up, you know, after this is already done. So I'm gonna hold off on that. I do got some more electrical wires, obviously a ton of wires I gotta run, but I don't wanna run them quite yet. But I did get the hatches, and I'm thinking maybe just go ahead and slap the hatches in here and turf it. Then we can finish up the rest of the electrical, because I can get inside of here. I mean, I don't think we'll have any issues. Check these bad boys out though. Bam, them things is pimping. I've never used this color before. Pretty much the same exact color that the boat is. Pretty dope. I'm hyped. I mean, it might be a little bit lighter, but it's really close, man. And these are powder coated, so heavy duty. I'm excited. I was thinking about doing them white, but the thing is, the turf that's going in here has a ton of white in it, and I really don't think that it would have looked good to have white hatches with the white turf, because the turf's going to be overpoweringly white. And then with the decals white and stuff, I think it's going to be cool blue. And that allows me to put white decals on those on the inside once you open them, and I think that'd be even doper. So that's what we did. We got them powder coated. It's going to match. I'm probably going to go ahead and slap some of these hatches in here and try to get them installed. That way we can start laying some turf in this thing, and then I'll be able to come back and run the rest of these wires, because these wires are going to be pretty simple. I mean, we're only running from here to here to here, and once I turf over that and cut out around these holes, then I can just lay these pieces right here, the switch panel and the fuse block, and just pull my wires through. It'll be simple. And just shove them in, run some screws in them, and finish them up. But other than that, we don't really have anything else left to do to the boat itself. A little bit of trailer work left, but we're going to focus on this boat. I'm going to put some of these hatches in here. Let's see what happens. Let's get back to work. Man, this thing is looking sick. It's the blue bandit right there, boy. Lots of blue. But just wait, we get that turf in there, and then you're gonna understand why we got so much blue. The turf is white. I did have to add a couple pieces up here, and the reason I did that is because I'm gonna make this removable, and I wanted everything to be level, bring it up to the same height. That way, when I turf over it, it won't be different heights underneath of this foot pedal tray. And the foot pedal tray, I want to make removable in case we need to get down in there and pull some wires or something. She's ready for turf though. I mean, it's ready to go. Everything is completely fastened down. All the metal work is finished for the whole deck and everything. So I'm pumped about that. Now, before I start the turf though, I think I'm gonna go ahead and throw his lights up here. He had the spotlights, and I'm gonna hook up a nav light for him and run the wires back, at least to get that out of here, because I'm gonna have to put a hole up in this corner or something to pull my wires down through there. I should have done that ahead of time. I could have put it back behind here. I don't know, it's kind of tight, but either way, I just need to have, you know, a little hole in here. And once I do that, I'm gonna clean this thing up and put our first sheet of turf in here. Let's get back to work. All right, guys, so the tinny is alive. Man, that thing looks sharp. It only took me 2 hours to do the entire turf job, installing the handles and the cup holders in here. But man, that thing looks so good. Now you can see why I wanted to go with the blue hatches and the blue hinges. It kind of blends it more, and the white is so overpowering. When I look at this turf, the white is all I see. I mean, maybe it's just me, but it's super bright. It looks really good though. I'm hyped about the way this thing turned out. And now I've got to install the turf inside of these hatches. But look at this, I got the gas piston on this one. That thing is pimping. I'm put some stickers and decals in here. Turf in the floor inside of all these hatches. But man, it looks so good. I've never used this colorway before. I'm glad that he chose it because it's another colorway under a notch in my belt, man. It's sick. I did have to cut this one down a little bit right here. You can see how this one's short, and like normally they're a lot longer than that. But with that battery in there and the depth of this boat is so small, it's like a tiny little rig. So I cut it down and it actually works fine. Sweet. I'm gonna turf inside of here too, I think. I don't know. I might leave a little area around the bilge pump. I might just leave this one open. Honestly, it's probably better that way. I might do some turf on the walls, the vertical walls inside of here, and slap a bunch of decals on here. I'm still waiting on my decal guy to get back with me, but I got a lot of electrical work to do. Now that all this is finished up, I'm gonna go ahead and start doing some electrical. Now, I did not hook up the spotlights like I was gonna do originally because I want to drill a hole through the turf and then down through the deck. So I think it's gonna be easier that way. I'm probably just gonna put one hole over here and run all the wires from these lights down through there and down up underneath here, back to the battery, put LED lights in all these compartments, and I gotta hook up all the fuses and switch panel, obviously. So that's what I'm gonna focus on now. But man, this thing just turned out killer. I'm pumped. I like every piece of this. The colorway is just perfect. I think Fish It Again is going to love it. And this is why he trusted me to build his boat, because the thing's sick. I know he's going to be happy with the way this project turned out. I'm going to put you guys back in the hyperlapse and we're going to start doing some wiring. All right, guys. So before I put you on the hyperlapse and hook up all of the wiring that's going into this boat, I want to show you something. Now, this is the Nylite switch panel I showed you earlier in the video, and this thing was a sponsorship. It's only like 26 bucks. It's not a huge sponsorship. I do not have an affiliate code or anything like that to give you guys, but I would like to work with them in the future because I like this switch panel. It's nice. It's all solid aluminum. The switches look cool with a built aluminum face on them, and they're not that hard to hook up. I'm going to show you guys exactly how I do this because you can do this. It's not rocket science. It's very simple. So look at this. On the back of this switch panel right here, all of these black wires, they're already jumped together. This is perfectly fine. We're going to leave this alone. We might have to put a little extension on here. What we're going to do with this is put an I-ring connector on here, and we're going to hook it up into this side of our fuse panel over here. It has a bus bar already in it. So you put a little eye on here, screw it into your bus bar. Done. Then all these red ones right here, the way this thing is set up right now, it's basically set up to where if you put an inline fuse in here, or we run this into one of the fuse outs, all these switches are going to be set up on the same fuse. Well, with that being said, it's pretty simple to understand that each one of these top connectors in the middle right here, where the red ones are hooked up, are for individual power. So the bottom one is where you're going to hook up your positive from your electronics, and then your negatives are going to go right into the bus bar. Right there. Stupid simple, man. All the black wires go into there. You can even combine them and double them up, whatever you got to do, and run them into the bus bar on the fuse panel. But if you want these switches to be on a standalone fuse, all you got to do is disconnect all of these pieces, and then these middle ones right here, you're going to hook up a cable from here into one of the fuses. We're going to put all 6 of these switches into the top 6 of the fuses over there. All of them will be set up with 5-amp fuses. And on the fuse panel, they have a screw in them. So you're going to put like a ring terminal on there, some small ones. And then on this side, you're going to put one of these spade connectors, just like it's hooked up right now. You got a female piece that's going to go over top of these males. All these exposed males, this is where the positive is going to go from all your accessories. It's pretty simple. You can have this one hooked up with a bilge or lights or nav lights, whatever you want. Those spades that are open on the switch panel that you get, that's where you're going to hook up the positive wire from all your accessories. So I'm going to remove these. If you want to remove these, you got to keep in mind they have a little lock on them. It's really not hard to remove, but you need to have something like a small screwdriver, something like an eye set or something like that. This is from an eyeglass set. It's stupid simple. Look, there's a little piece inside of there. You hit that, pull it off. If you do not use something like this to pull it off, then you're probably going to break the spade connector off. But these things are not hard to take off, guys. You just have to make sure that you take these off. That way you can hook up your cables, and then you can run this thing with an inline fuse. Each one of these switches will be hooked up to its own fuse. Just keep in mind that the ones that are exposed when you get it, these bottom ones are where your positive wire is going to go from your accessory, and the ones in the middle are the ones that are going to run directly into each fuse. It's stupid simple. I'm going to put you guys back in the hyperlapse, and I'll explain this again once I get it all hooked up. Get back to work. Alright, so check it out. This is stupid simple. You guys can do this. Now, all of these middle spades in here, all these connectors were hooked up in a jumper line. We took all of them off, and now we hooked up individual lines. So you can see how these are hooked up. Stupid simple. We just put a little heat shrink connector on there, hit them with a heat gun, and we ran like a 20-inch cable from each one of the switches over here and through the holes in our fuse panel. And then we hooked them up to each individual fuse. So now we have 6 across this top, and we have 6 switches. Very simple. We'll come back and put our fuses in here. These fuse panels are super nice and they're super cheap. They have a light in here. So if this fuse blows, it'll light up. It'll let you know that this fuse is no good instantly. And then I went ahead and I connected this. I told you I had to probably add a jumper onto this, make it a little bit longer. Well, that's what we did. All these are just the negatives for the LED lights that are in there. They draw very low amperage, and you don't have to worry about those. Those can be connected together and ran into the bus bar, which is what we did. Got them coming up here and ran into the bus bar. That's done. Now, once we put our fuses in here, we'll have power in here. I did hook up a 7-gauge wire on either side for our positive and our negative, and that runs directly into the battery. And basically from there, you can spider wire out everything from there. It's pretty simple to do, guys. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hook up all of the LEDs and stuff I got going in here. I'm gonna hook the power into here, and then all of the negatives are gonna come right into here, into these bus bars. And then I can put my fuses in here. All the switches will be hooked up on that. Very simple. You guys can do this. I'm gonna come back and explain this a little bit more once I get all of the stuff connected and hooked up into it and get them installed into the boat. Let's go back to work. All right, so the intent's looking sick. I got all of the electrical ran in here into the switch panel and fuse block. Still got to install them. But I wanted to put the fish finder unit on here that we got. I mean, this Garmin unit is pretty sick for what it is. It's tiny, but I mean, it's pretty cool for being as small as it is. It'd be perfect for this boat, but I don't have the damn power cable for it. I got the transducer cable. Not only that, but there's screws stuck in 1, 2, 3, 4 holes. They were broken off. Now, I don't remember that being like that. I thought this was a unit that came out of my tracker when I originally bought it. It came with this in there. Maybe I'm mistaken and I've got that unit somewhere else. But unfortunately, unless I find that power cable or another unit or some bracket to hold a new transducer on without screws stuck in them, this thing is pretty much just garbage. I mean, this head unit right here might be worth $10 on eBay. I don't know, but very disappointing. I gotta keep moving though. This thing is almost done, man. I got a little bit of electrical to finish up. I just gotta tuck all these wires nice and neat, install these 2 panels, and then I'm gonna turf inside of these compartments here. I got 3 compartments to turf inside of. Then I gotta put the recessed foot pedal tray in, attach the trolling motor, and I gotta hook up the trolling motor power. I got this little bracket right here. I'm gonna insert it into the face of the trolling motor tray for the foot pedal, and that way he'll be able to unplug it and take this thing off here. But good news, I did get the motor back from John Tiger today, and it cost me a little bit more money than I was hoping, but the thing is sweet, and he said it runs like a top. Now, it's kind of weird the way this thing is set up, but I'm going to show you guys because I want Ryan to know in case he has an issue with it. But on this backside, right underneath here and here, you can see there's bolts in there, this bolt here, and there's one right behind it. And basically, if the water pump goes out, you take those 2 bolts out, and then you can pull this whole housing out. Because if you look right here, see those holes in there? Well, that's where his water intake is at, which is different. I mean, this is a very tiny motor. But those holes right there, water intake, inside of that is basically just a rubber impeller that sucks the water up to cool this engine. Now, up inside of here, this is like a little faceplate. You can pop that off. There's an extra shear pin in here for the prop. So if you ever have an issue with that, Ryan, well, you know where that's at. But all in all, this little motor's sick, man. I can't wait to get this thing installed in the boat. And I'm getting ready to do that in just a few minutes. Now, I do have to install the aluminum spacer plate back here because this is not thick enough for the outboard to mount to. So I got to do that. I got that sitting over here. I haven't messed with that since I originally made it. But I've got my DA sander here. I'm going to hit this thing with like maybe some 200 and then maybe even 100 down to 400. And I think 400 should be enough for that. And then I'm gonna, you know, paint that thing and get some holes drilled in it, bolt it onto the back of the boat, put some 5200 around it, and then we'll mount the motor on here. But I'm hyped about that motor, man. It's just, the build's almost done. There's always something that wants to get me. It's a couple days till Christmas, so I'm trying to finish up as much as I can. This light I had back here too, I tested it earlier and it worked, and then I tested it again. I was about to install it. Didn't work, so I'm just going to do away with it. I'm going to turf over both these back corner panels. He really doesn't need an anchor light anyways. I mean, this thing's going to be in small ponds and lakes and stuff. He's not going to be taking us out on main waters. And even if he does, there's so many LED lights in here with the interior, exterior, spotlights on the front. That anchor light's kind of stupid. You know, they're going to see him for sure because this thing is going to be lit up. And then I do have all my stickers. Lots of stickers over here. Look at this. My guy hooked me up and he made the stickers and he made it mini tinny instead of yenny tinny, which at first I was like, oh no, but then I realized that it's okay because I've got 2 here and 2 more here. So what I'm going to do is just take the Y at the end and then I will use like this one and I'll put it in the front. Not the end of the world. We will make it work, guys, but I got a lot of work to do, and I'm trying to get this project finished up. Put you guys back in the hyperlapse, so we'll get back to work. All right, so I got my transom spacer painted. It looks pretty good. I sanded it down with some 400 grit. And I painted it with a silver metallic color, so I think it's pretty dope. But I did have it sitting up here on this bucket in front of the heater, and look what the heater did to this bucket. I mean, this thing is toast. I mean, I don't really care about the bucket anyways, but I didn't really expect it to melt like that, but it's soft. I've already moved it away a little bit, so it's gonna be all right. But we're gonna install this thing now, and I got some bolts for this. The bolts I'm gonna use, these are 1/4-20s. Stainless steel bolts, and they're 2.5 inches long, and the transom is 1 inch, and so is this spacer we're using. So we should have a 1/2 inch of space of this bolt sticking out. We're going to put a washer on here with a nylock nut. I'm going to get these installed with 4 bolts. I'm going to put some 5200 on those, and then we'll put the motor on here. Let's get back to work. All right, so I did a little research. I could not find the cable for this. I looked around good, but I bought one. I ordered it off of Amazon, the little 4-pin power cable. It was like $18.99. So I am going to install that. And I did take this transducer and I found this bracket for it. And I took a toothpick and went inside those holes, and it was just dirt. It was clogged up in there. It wasn't bolts broken off in there. So I got to get some screws for this to connect that. And I got the other bracket right here so I can mount this on the transom. And then when this power cable gets here in a couple of days, we'll hook that up in the boat. Now I did finish up everything else in the boat, man. The thing looks sick. Got the trolling motor up here. Look at this thing. This thing is really cool. This is the Motor Guide Bulldog 40-pound thrust. Now this has a 30-inch shaft on it. They stopped making these. They only made them for a couple years to begin with, but they stopped in 2013. And the ad for the original sale for it says that it's a pond hopper's dream motor. The thing is sick. I really hate to get rid of it because I wanted to use it for something just like this, but it's the perfect motor for this boat. I did have to attach the trolling motor in here because the way this thing's set up, it's got a lot of tension on this cable, and the foot pedal wasn't going to stay in there. But it's literally just 4 Phillips head screws. He can take those out with a screwdriver if he needs to remove this and unplug the motor from here. And then just has these clamp-on bolts right here. Now, Ryan, if you decide to sell this rig or get rid of this, I kind of want this back because these are sweet. Now, this is just something I just threw in here for you because it fits perfectly. But these are on eBay for like $700 plus, and I think it's pretty dope. Look, let me turn this thing on. Lots of power. Everything's hooked up. Works as it should. The only thing left I got to do is some trailer work. So I'm going to get this trailer tongue cut down. I'm going to move the jack wheel back, and I'm going to put a new coupler on it. I got a 2-inch coupler. This one that's on here is 1 7/8. The one that I got, they didn't make one that fits a 2-inch wide tubing. It's a 2.5, but I'm going to put some like 1/4-inch spacers on either side and make that work. I'm going to go ahead and put you guys back on the hyperlapse, get started on this, and I'm going to take the wheels off of here, and I'm going to see what kind of hubs are in there. Hopefully I can replace or repack those hubs and get this thing finished up. Turned out dope though. God dang, boy. She's smoking. Fun. Yeah, this thing is not spinning good at all. This is metal to metal. I think it's wobbling. It's not even straight on here. I'm gonna try to get this thing off of here and see what we can do to try to fix it up for him. All right, so check it out. This is what we got. We got everything off of the spindle on the end of this axle. It looks like it's pretty straight. Does got a little bit of surface rust on it. Looks pretty good back here where it would seal. So I'm thinking this is going to be all right for the axle. I'm going to get some sandpaper and I'm lightly going to sand this rust off of here, try to polish this up. This is important. People like to have nice boats, but they don't realize that your boating trip can go south very quickly if you don't take care of your hubs. I mean, it's very simple. These hubs are spinning just as fast as the tires on your truck is when you're pulling your damn boat. And if this thing isn't taken care of, well, what happens is they seize up. It doesn't have grease in there. The seals break like this one right here. Look, this is his rear seal. Well, when you see the new one, you'll understand a lot more about it if you're not familiar with trailer parts, but this is basically just like a metal housing, and in the center of it, it's supposed to have a little rubber piece. It's like a gasket. You put this on all the way back, and it seats into the back of the hub right here, like that. And it's called a seal for a reason, because it seals off the back of the hub. This is the hub right here with the lug nuts coming off of it. So then after that, you've got this piece, which is a part of this piece, which go together like that, which should look like the one that we took out of the front, which is right here. This is the bearing. So the one I just showed you that was in pieces, well, it originally looked like that. So the back bearing was completely trashed. When I started taking it apart, the bearing were falling out of it, and it's because that back seal was blown out. The front one wasn't as bad, but we're going to replace this thing if we're going in here. We're not going to put this old piece of crap back in there. And then on the outside of that, it's pretty simple. You just got the washer that goes on, and then this big nut right here, and that nut has a hole in it, so you put this cotter pin through it. That nut does not have to be super tight, because if it's too tight, it will not allow the hub to spin correctly, and it can put drag on it. And you want it to be tight enough to hold it, and that cotter pin basically makes sure that nut doesn't come undone. So you want to just snug it, put the cotter pin in there, call it a day. So now I'm going to go ahead and put this on some blocks, jack up the other side, do the same thing to the other side. Honestly, for the sake of time and the fact that this hub is in really rough shape, it's really rusty, and I had a heck of a time getting the lug nuts off of here because they're just so rusty. I'm going to see if I can just buy hubs. I'm going to take that hub right there with me. I'm going to go up to the hardware store, and I'm going to see if I can buy a hub assembly. Now, they're a little bit more expensive. It's probably about $60, but I can get that hub, hopefully in that size, with that lug pattern that's already put together with all these pieces in here. So all I have to do is clean this up, slide it on, and then put the nut on the outside, call it a day. Now, this right here, this is called a buddy bearing. I don't like these. Some guys swear by them. I don't, because I tell you why. You see that piece right there in the middle? Well, that is where you put the grease into the hub. And basically, there is a spring right here, and it's pushing against that rubber. And you're just basically pumping the grease inside of here, and then this spring is pushing pressure back towards the back up into the hub to grease it. Now, the best hubs to get are the ones that have a grease attachment in the back. That way, you don't have to worry about having this stupid thing right here, because you can put too much grease in here and it can blow that rear seal out, because you can just keep on pumping it in there, and this thing's going to push it back in there, and it's going to blow the rear seal out. So these are not something that I recommend. I just don't like them. If you're going to do it, get a galvanized hub that has a fitting in the back that you can grease. And that's the best way to do it. You have a fitting in the back you can grease. You'll have another one up in the side of here with like a cap you remove, and then you can grease the end of it, and that will keep the thing greased. That's the best style hubs you can get if you're going to replace it. I don't know if we're going to have many options considering how old this thing is, and that it's just a little 4-lug. But I'm going to clean this thing up, put it in a bag. We're going to the hardware store. All right, so I went to the hardware store, and of course, they don't have any of these old 4-lug ones here. Northern Tool might have them, but they're closed. They close at 5 o'clock on Sundays. So I ended up picking these up right here. Now, you can do it with this. I'm pretty positive that this 1 1/16 is what we need. And it's got the bearings in here, and I mean, I should be able to make this work right here. A little bit of a pain in the butt, but you got one for the front, one for the back, and they give you a new cotter pin. So with these, now if you use these, you got to take these bearings out of here, and you got to pat grease into them. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll put like a big dab of grease in my palm of my hand, and then I'll take this, little bearing in my other hand, just kind of dip it in there and spin it around and around and get it lubed up really good. This is important, because if you buy like the whole hub like this, then it's already packed full of grease. You just take it and literally just shove it on there, put the bolt in, you're done. They are about 65 to 70 bucks. This kit right here was $22, I think. So it's definitely cheaper, but a lot more work, a lot more pain in the butt. But that's what we're going to do. I got a tub of grease around here somewhere. I'm going to pack a bunch of grease in here, and then I'm going to pack grease inside of here really good. Get it to seat up there. Put this back bearing on right here with the front seal on it. I'll put the buddy bearing back in after I get the nut with the cotter pin in it. Takes a little bit of time, but this should work. It should do what we need it to do. I'm gonna go ahead and get this one side done, and then we'll go over to the other side and get that one torn apart. All right, so one side is done. Listen, it spins pretty good. I mean, doesn't sound like that metal to metal anymore. Nice and tight. You do not want your tire ever to be wiggly, because that means that you got issues with your bearings. Everything is seated good. Now, about these buddy bearings. Now, if you look at them, look, the center has a hookup for a grease gun like this one right here. That's what I use to grease them. Well, on the side over here, there's a small hole. It's down here. Where is it at? Right there. See that hole? So that is right behind where this rubber like bushing is at. This is basically just like a plunger, and it's on a spring. So if you fill this up, it will move outward and push against this spring. Any excess grease will come out the hole on the side right there. I need somebody that knows how to install trailers. If this is what you do for a living, or you have knowledge on this, please comment on this video, because for me, this is how my brain works. I'm pumping grease in here, right? And there's air back here inside of the hub. Well, that air has no way to escape out of that back seal. So what is it going to do? It's going to form like a lock, which is basically going to keep this grease from getting to the back and inside of this hub. It's going to hit that air, and it's just going to stop it. And it's going to pump it backwards because the pressure of that air being in there, and then the grease is going to come out the side hole. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that grease somehow gets the air to come out, but I started putting, grease in here, and almost instantly it started coming out of here. I pumped a bunch in there, and a good amount came out of that hole. But to me, these buddy bearings are a cool idea if you have a fitting on the back of your hub so you can pump the grease in from the back. Because the way my brain works is that if you're pumping the grease in from the back, then it would push all of that air forward and out of this hole right here. And then once the grease started coming out of here, you're good. To grease it from the front, it doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't know. But regardless, one side's done. I'm gonna put this cap back on here and go over to the other side, jack it up, and do this all over again. This is not fun. I hate doing trailer work, but it's a very important part of owning a boat or a trailer in general. So I'm gonna put you guys back on the hyperlapse. I'm gonna rip the other wheel off the other side, and that one's actually missing a lug nut over there. Hopefully I can find one. If not, I have to pick one up. But do the same thing on the other side, and we'll circle back. Let's get back to work. All right, guys, so I got the trailer fixed up, man. This thing is nice now. Those wheels spin good, nice and snug, tight fit. So I don't have to worry about any issues with this thing while he's trailering it. This fisher again needs to be able to go fishing when he's ready to go fishing. Nobody wants to be stuck on the side of the road with blown hubs. So make sure you guys grease those hubs and do your trailer maintenance every year, guys. It's definitely a big part of boating for sure. Now, I do got a couple things left to do to this rig. This video is getting super long. I'm gonna call it here, but I'm hyped that this thing's about to be done in a couple days. I'm gonna bring my MIG welder home, and I'm gonna MIG weld this front of the trailer. We're gonna cut the tongue down and put the new coupler on there for the 2-inch ball. And I'm waiting still for the power cable to come for the graph that we're gonna put in here. I did talk to Fisher again today though, pretty cool. Hit him up and try to get a schedule. He's coming to pick this thing up in about a week. So we got a little bit of time to finish this thing up, but I've got to put the LED lights in here for his nav lights. He does want nav lights, so not a big deal. I ordered those two. They're going to be here in a couple days. So hopefully by this weekend, I'll be able to finish up the rest of the stuff I'm putting in here, and I'm gonna try to take this thing out to the water and at least get some video footage of it in the water, do a little walkthrough for you guys, show you the entire rig. I might even putt around this thing. I don't know. I'm a big dude and I'm not comfortable in this tiny little rig, man. 10 foot, a little bit too small for me, but we'll see. Anyways, guys, Ryan is out of town, so he's not watching right now, but I'm sure he's going to check this video out, and he will be here in about a week to pick this thing up. So you can look for this video on his channel to drop of the reveal, and I'm hoping he's going to take this thing out and use it and show you guys all about how it works and what he does with it. I mean, he's probably going to take this thing to some crazy places. Knowing him, he'll probably have his buddies packed in here, and they'll be catching bluegill the size of footballs by the week after he picks it up. I do want to give a shout out to our sponsors for the video, Nylite. They hooked us up with the switch panel that went in here. Now Ryan's got sponsors too. We got the MillerTech batteries in here. Big shout out to MillerTech because they hooked me up with some gear, and HydroTurf. HydroTurf hooked him up with the turf that's in here. HydroTurf is pretty good quality stuff. I mean, it's probably by far my favorite solid sheet turf. If I was going to go with the CNC cut, I've only used the C-Deck in that, and it was pretty dope. But HydroTurf, it's probably my favorite for sure if you're going to do solid sheet turf. They come in bigger sizes, and they have a humongous range of colors compared to the C-Deck and the Ortho Deck and some of the other marine mattings. So anyways, guys, I do appreciate y'all watching. Hit that like, subscribe button, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this one. It's going to be a crazy little rig. I'll see y'all next time. Let's get back to work.